What's going on, guys? And how is everybody doing this evening? Welcome to episode number 138 of the Xbox Roundtable podcast, your favorite place on Sunday nights to just kick back and crack a cold one while listening to all kinds of gaming talk. I'm your host, Invader, and we've got a lot to cover on the docket as far as topics go. But first, I have to wish a happy Father's Day to all the amazing dads listening in and participating in the chat. I hope you've all been taking it easy today and enjoying yourselves and being treated extremely well by either your significant other or your kids, right? So I hope you're all getting pampered. Now, we have an awesome show in store for you tonight, but first, let me introduce everybody on the panel. Tonight, we're joined by a really cool voice in the gaming community. Let me bring up my pal here, Dreadpool. Hey, buddy, how you been?
Oh, I've been doing great. This is definitely one of those honors again to be on one of your shows and hanging out with everybody here. We live? Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Invader?
Oh yeah.
Everything went dead silent. I was like, did I just get kicked out?
No, dude. No. Sorry. I thought you were adding more in, but that's okay. That's good to hear. Have you been doing much gaming recently?
I have. I've been gaming with the Forking crew today on Rainbow. What was it? I'm sorry, Ghost Recon Wildlands. So we've been doing that. A little bit of Minecraft Dungeons still, and some Maneater.
Oh yeah, Maneater. Now that's a game that I know Centurion has talked very highly about. I got to get into it because we gave it away on TXR a couple of weeks back. A lot of people are talking about that game. It looks like a lot of fun.
Oh, it's
I
definitely.
keep thinking of Hall Notes every time everybody says it.
When we trail it off, that's when you go there.
Oh, definitely. But yeah, again, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'll move on to Shock Buddy. Hey, how have you been doing since we last chatted?
Pretty good. Finally secured my Ring Fit for my Switch. So I'm excited to see if I can drop a few pounds while quarantined. But I started Last of Us 2, picked that one up. Definitely a big step up in quality, like graphic fidelity.
Mm-hmm.
So that looks insane. I think they really nailed it with just like the it's hard to explain, like just the brutal body language, like when you just have Ellie smash a window and she stabs it with like her shiv, and it's just so violent, and it's just like, wow, it almost looks like kind of like someone's breaking it, like in a movie, like really doing it, versus like another game you might break like a window or something and it just feels like a game. Like that feels like cinematic when she's like doing simple stuff like that. But the combat is where it's really stepped up its game. Really, the dodge mechanic in it is really great because you have multiple enemies coming at you from left, right. You can't really tell sometimes, so it's good to have that in there. But it makes the combat really, there's definitely a learning curve, but once you get used to it, it gets to be a lot of fun. So definitely, think they definitely nailed it with this one. So,
all right, how much time have you put into the game, would you say, so far?
I'm still on day one, but I'm to where you're actually in the like Seattle, like a more of the open world part,
right?
Where it's kind of semi-open world part of the game, which looks phenomenal. So definitely think they're going to be making us double dip on this game on the PS5.
Yeah,
because everybody's like posting like the record, how many records it's breaking in the UK sales, and then everybody's like, no, they'll just patch it in. Sure, okay. So the first one sold 20 million, 11 like on PS4 for the remaster, and like 8 on the PS3. Yeah, they're not going to make us double dip. I'm sure there's not going to be a PS5 release in a year.
Okay. I sure hope not.
Oh, I'm sure there will. But whether it's free, that's the question.
Mm-hmm. Now, it does look like again, I don't own the game, but I will say I have watched a lot of video of it, a lot of streams, and I mean, from the detail of the game, the game is very gorgeous. I like how like the general, I won't say atmosphere, but it definitely has a certain, like, just the way that everything's set up and just the art of all the surroundings. Everything looks really, really crisp. It looks amazing that way.
Yeah, it's definitely more. It feels more like gruesome with the combat. Just like when you're actually taking somebody out and just stabbing them like in the throat. I'm like, damn. But yeah, it's definitely kind of a step back, I would say, in the control department because they did go backwards as far as the frames per second. So you can still kind of feel that. Like if you played the remaster, they bumped that up to 60.
Mm-hmm.
But now I guess they want to do a performance, 720p mode. 60 frames just as an option, but hopefully they give us that option in the future for these new consoles. So I don't want to see Naughty Dog still doing 30 frames per second next year, or for their new franchises.
Well, that'd be pretty naughty of them, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey, you know what? Maybe next week, we can't wait to hear from you, like your thoughts. Once you get further into the game.
People have gotten so far, and they're like, "I already beat him." Like, it's a survival game where you're like scavenging parts and look like I feel like I'm just going super slow because I'm trying. I feel like I'm gonna miss, materials that I'm gonna need later on because you feel like you have to hoard in that game because you're very limited on supplies compared to like Resident Evil 2 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it is pretty amazing that people have just speeded right through the game. So
definitely more stealthy this time around too. So playing that Splinter Cell last week really helped. I was like, okay, cool, because you can't just run in a game like this. They don't give you enough, ammo, so you really have to be kind of playing your attack, especially on the harder difficulties.
Yeah, well, you definitely prepped ahead of time that way. So, all right, I'll move on to Centurion. How you been, man?
Oh, doing pretty good. Sunday night, ready to talk games with the guys here on TXR and Dreadpool. I actually have a long history with him. He's actually pretty much the first person I've ever chatted with in the gaming community when I decided to kind of go content creator, if you want to call it that. But other than that, I have been just kind of playing around with Disintegration and Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh yeah. I've been really curious about Disintegration. How is that so far?
Okay, so I watched a couple videos before I bought it. I knew what I was getting myself into. I missed the beta. I hate to say this, it reminds me of Destiny. Really great concept, really great characters. But like the first Destiny game, it was just really choppily put together. Like, it's all over the place when it comes to story. So you got to be very forgiving when it comes to story delivery. It's a very unique concept. I'm having fun with it, but that's also having the difficulty turned up. If you are at like recruit level, definitely it almost feels like you're just shooting at things on the ground. There is some strategy to it as you turn up the difficulty. So I'm having fun, but I think that's partially because I knew what I was getting myself into. When it comes to Disintegration, I would definitely say watch a few videos that don't reveal much about the story. See if the gameplay is something that you want to play, because with Disintegration, I feel you're going to have... there's going to be no in between. You're either not going to enjoy it or you're just going to enjoy the gameplay because of the uniqueness. But anyways, I think it's really great that this game was made with, I think it was like, how many people? 11?
It was a pretty small team, but
it was a very small team. But I mean, like, there's actually some very decent quality when it comes to the cutscenes and the concept of the story. Like, I really feel like that there's something that could be with this franchise if somebody was to really throw a lot of money at it.
Is it a loot-based game?
No. Oh. You just go around, shoot. There is some exploration, but the whole idea is you get scrap, and the more scrap that you have, the more your scrap you can put into the I believe it's some kind of it was supposed to be some kind of like a flying racing motorcycle, but the one that you have has been modified with weapons. And to put in the story, I'm not trying to drone on, to put in the story. So, basically a lot of bad stuff has happened on Earth, and a lot of people were concerned about their own mortality, so they decided to put their brains inside these things called brain canisters or brain cans, and you can put them in these armatures, which are basically representations of yourself. So each of the robots actually is not a robot, they're an individual. They have an individual's brain in them. They have their own individual personalities. I think it's really cool. And there is still human people alive, but they're slowly being eradicated by people that see themselves now as gods in these armatures. And they're slowly trying to convince the others that pretty much that is the next stage in human evolution, is to become this. And anybody in your way should just be destroyed. So, like I said, the story is a great concept, and that's what intrigued me in it in the whole first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always intrigued me that, like, when it first got announced, it was like a shooter / RTS. You know, there was like some strategy involved from the looks of it, but you know, I have seen reviews for it, and I don't know. I am tempted to try it out because, you know, Marcus Leto, he was part of Halo right from the beginning, and you know, it does have a bit of a pedigree to it, this game, but at the same time, yeah, I'm very curious about it overall. I might get it in the coming weeks. Right now, I mean, I'm playing a few games at the moment. I'm trying to work through my backlog actually, but
like, to describe the story issues is, well, there went a car. Anyways, so in the very beginning of the game, you're pretty much put into this crazy situation, and you can kind of pick up that pretty much that some of these guys have just met for the first time, and yet the whole situation and interactions are as if these guys have known each other forever. So that's where the chemistry feels off, because like they're just for basically just meeting like literally hours ago, you guys act like you known each other for years, and just it's stuff like that where they're trying to, I guess, make a story very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm curious about it. I might pick it up in a little bit. Now, fellas, before we head into tonight's topics, just a reminder that we are doing a giveaway for a limited edition Xbox Cyberpunk 2077 controller. And how you enter that is you go to our Twitter account and look at the pinned tweet on how to enter. There is a link down below in the description to our Twitter account. Just look for the pinned tweet and you'll find out how to enter that. It ends, I believe it is June 29th. Yeah, June 29th on the Monday. So a little more than a week left there, guys. Definitely get in on it. Those controllers are hard to come by, to say the least. So definitely spread the word on that. All right, guys, we are going to head into our first topic now, and Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed again. Yes, I said that right, again. And over Twitter, CD Projekt Red, the studio behind it, announced that the game is technically finished from a content perspective, but because the game is so large, the studio needs the extra time to fix bugs, do balancing, basically a lot of polishing and a few other things, to say the least. Now, Dreadpool, I'll head to you first since you are our guest, and this is a game that was originally supposed to release back in April, but it got pushed back to September and now to obviously mid-November. Because of all the delays, should we be worrying about the condition of the game, or should we trust in CD Projekt Red's track record of quality?
Excuse me. No, actually, I kind of called this earlier. I said, I hope that they don't push it back. I think what they're going to do is they're pushing it back and using it as a way to clean it up. And I applaud them for that part, but I think they're pushing it back so it releases with the Series X. I think that's the probably the ideal strategy for them. You know, releasing it so early like they did with the console, I think that the One X console that they did and the controllers had to be released earlier because they are this generation that's ending, so they need to get those out of there. But for the game itself, you know, being pushed back a couple months, we saw that kind of happening, and we kind of predicted that it'll get pushed back again, just because that's how they're they like to polish everything. They like to go back in, and I see this as a double, not a double-edged sword, but a twofold thing. It's good for it to be pushed back for the Series X, because now when you show the game and the next generation, so it's going to be PS5 too, right? So you're going to show it at its best. Okay, so you're not going to see an Xbox One game or a PS4 game. You're going to see it when it's a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. So you're going to have that that quality on the console, because we know on PC it's going to look great. There's everybody's going to go, but that's PC. What about the console? So that being said, I see that being a good reason, and I'm okay with it. I got no problems. I'd rather wait for the game to come out than being rushed. I don't want them to put out a game. I don't know. What was that game that everybody hated? That's a fun game, Crackdown 3. They were rushed because they lost their tech that they were using. They had to redevelop it and then push for it. And they you know what I mean? They were already losing on that. CD Projekt Red does quality stuff, so all their games have love and heart into it. So when they push it out, you're going to get something good. I mean, what do we complain about for Red Dead 2? You know what I mean? We had to sit there and nitpick. Oh, it's a slow story. But it was great. Everything else was great.
Absolutely. And then you look at games that they have, some pretty large budgets. I mean, obviously, CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk has a massive budget. But you look at games like Anthem, where they have all these, they have all kinds of resources behind them, but the game just lacks content. It was bug ridden right from the get-go, and then people, like, within the first week or two, just immediately drop the game like a sack of potatoes. So really, I mean, I don't mind CD Projekt Red pushing the game back personally, because I mean, obviously I see a lot of comments in the chat, obviously it's okay if it gets delayed. Like Jose Torres here says the game is literally done, more polished the better. And I agree, because I would prefer them take their time to get it right and just put a little more extra detail, extra polish. I mean, I do think, like, I agree with you that the next gen consoles have a lot to do with it as well, and there will be upgrades for the next gen consoles with patches. We know that the Xbox Series X, it will have the smart delivery, but they haven't really provided when that those will be released, these patches.
Sometime in 2021 you actually get probably like a PS5 Xbox Series X like box, because that's when they're saying that 2021 is when the official next gen version will come. But they'll have, like, do backwards compatibility, like upgraded patches, so it can take kind of like Xbox One X does, where you have like the upgraded patch for the Xbox One games. So you won't get the true like next version of it until like 2021 sometime, whenever they're finished.
Right. That's the thing, though. I mean, you push it back. This game was supposed to come out in April. It got pushed back to September. I mean, we already technically have the limited edition console out for right now.
Had Keanu Reeves come out to show a release date that never was.
Yeah, so it's been amazing, really, the story behind this game and just the long process of it. I wish we had more gameplay for it, to be honest, at this point.
Have you seen one of the, I think it was kind of like a chase scene where you're driving and then you kind of put your car in like somewhat of an autopilot and you're kind of hanging out the window, and as you're driving through the city, which looks phenomenal from the scenes I've seen.
Oh, no, it does. It looks absolutely massive, and just the kind of gangs that you interact with, and customization. Like, I could go into a whole slew of different things on the game. But no, it does look very impressive, and you can tell by the pedigree of CD Projekt Red. The Witcher is obviously, it stands on its own. The Witcher 3 is one of the best games of this gen in terms of quality and, even quantity. It's a pretty long game, too.
Yeah, I think people are also using it as saying that like PS5 has smart delivery, which I think people forget there's actually like a functionality to what smart delivery does. You put in the, Xbox One disc version, of the game, and it automatically detects, like if it's in an Xbox Series X, it's automatically going to detect and download that game for you while it's installing. We don't know if PS5 is going to do that. When I put in a Cyberpunk PS4 game in the PS5, whenever that next gen upgrade's available, we don't know if you have to go to the store and download it, kind of like you have PSN Plus games where you have to like download and redeem them. They're free in a way, but you still have to go and redeem them. So I don't know if you're going to have to do that for, say, PS4 upgrades for the publishers that do that, whereas the ones that take advantage of smart delivery, it's actually a function that they're enabling the developers or publishers to take advantage of. So it's just automatic. You put it in the disc, you don't even have to think about, oh, let me go dig in the store and find it.
Absolutely. I guess the thing with this getting delayed to November, though, I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm worried, but it's just the game has been pushed back so much that we still don't know what games are still going to be launching alongside these systems. I mean, okay, we know about the PlayStation 5. We don't know when the console's releasing exactly. Maybe in October, maybe November. Same thing with the Xbox Series X. And we don't really know what kind of games will be launching aside of, besides maybe Halo Infinite, obviously. But, you know, let's say Microsoft announces a couple of other, like, big name exclusives. I don't want a scenario where Cyberpunk 2077 just gets lost in the shuffle. Like, I don't think it will be, but at the same time, it's like, I really hope they know what they're doing. I think the game is supposed to launch now November 16th, I believe the day was, but just somewhere in that time frame. And I just hope that, you know, is that an ideal time for this game to launch, guys?
Can I give you a little bit of food for thought? Mr. Downer's not here, so
go for it.
Hey, Downer, I'm going to do this in spirit. So, what if theoretically, just reaching for the stars, this is like a plan B? Like, we all know that Cyberpunk is not going to get buried under very many launch lineups. Like, at this point, the only real launch games that we could probably name off the top of our heads for either console would be Halo Infinite or Spider-Man Morales.
Yeah,
did I get that right?
Morales.
Ratchet's a launch game. I don't know if that's official, but
so, but basically, you know, so what I'm getting at is we know that this is going to be a third-party exclusive. The funny part is this is going to help benefit for both Microsoft and PlayStation, because a lot of people are going to think that there's going to be a lot of next-gen upgrades through smart delivery or any other means, like what Shockley was talking about, having to dig through the store and hopefully find an upgrade patch for the game. But anyways, what is this, if this is a plan B for Microsoft on, like, what if there is a problem with Halo Infinite and there's a delay on Halo Infinite? They could fall back on something that they might have planned for Cyberpunk 2077, because they do have the marketing rights for the game. So there's got to be somewhat of a strategy with Microsoft in doing this, because, like, is this delay on the developer side or is this delay on the publisher side? And the developer just happens to be helping the publisher kind of create, kind of help coil a lot of the backlash that'd be associated with it. I don't know. Call me crazy.
All right, crazy. No, crazy Greek dude's actually in the chat, so he's crazy. But you know, that is an interesting theory that you bring up, Centurion. I would say that if Halo Infinite did get delayed or bumped back, that would be a huge loss for the Xbox Series X, because
it would be a huge loss. But that's where, I'm not trying to interrupt, forgive me, but, like, let's look at it right now. Cyberpunk 2077 came out the day it was supposed to, the second time, like, when it was delayed the first time. And now November rolls around and Halo doesn't launch. You're now left with nothing. So I'm pretty sure Microsoft is probably thinking in their head, call me crazy again, but I'm pretty sure Microsoft is thinking, if the delay happens, would you rather have something or nothing? And I know pretty much they would rather have something.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as big of a loss if it got delayed and Cyberpunk dropped day one, because that's going to be a game. It's kind of like when they had Rise of the Tomb Raider, even though that's not really as big as Halo, but like it got buried under Fallout 4. So when you have a game like that, it's if Halo came out 2 months later after Cyberpunk and everybody got their fill with that game, I don't think that would be a problem.
And also, I think it would be a time for smart delivery to shine, because Microsoft might have a way of actually creating a next-gen experience with Cyberpunk 2077, and because PS4, technically Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a PS4 game that through backwards compatibility will work on a PS5. We cannot deny that. It's not going to be a PS5 game. It is a PS4 game that will work through backwards compatibility on a PS5. And I really do think that there is probably going to be, if a delay happens on Halo Infinite, Microsoft will find probably some way to create a massive visual difference between Cyberpunk 2077 on the PS4 and, the PS5 and the Series X.
Well, just keep in mind that, I mean, with regards to, was it Rise of the Tomb Raider, it was at least a true exclusive for a year, whereas, I mean, it is going to be available on other,
It's going to be available, but that's where, like, what happened when everybody found out that the Red Dead Redemption 2 version of the PS4 on the PS4 Pro was smeared Vaseline, and it was 4K glory over on the Xbox One X. And this was before it was ever on PC. I don't want to hear about what PCs can do now. We're talking day one. People were going out buying Xbox One X's to have the best graphical experience they could with Red Dead Redemption 2. And you never know, the same logic might apply with Cyberpunk 2077.
But you did notice when it's getting released, right? November 19th?
And that's where I'm actually saying that, where I commented on that on the Shop podcast last night. The Xbox One X was, I believe, originally released on November 7th. I know they don't aim for the same day. It might just be ironic. But what I'm getting at is most of the time they release a console in like the first week of November. And that's where I see with Halo Infinite, no matter what, then since when is the campaigns for Halo games ever gone 60 to 100 hours? Halo games have a very straightforward campaign that you can do about 20, 30, 40 hours in. So that means in about a week and a half period of time, a lot of the people can actually play through Halo, get into the multiplayer, have their fill with it, or whatever. And then Cyberpunk 2077 comes out and helps kind of fuel that first player experience that people might be looking for after they beat Halo if they don't get into the multiplayer.
See, and that's what I was getting at too, is it's right before Thanksgiving, and it's just enough time to give everybody the day one releases for those games to be able to play them. And before you get a chance to finish them, or you do finish them, if you're fast enough, if you have enough time, you can go right into Cyberpunk and enjoy the rest of it. Because the following week we said it's Thanksgiving. What are most people going to be playing? You're either going to be playing online or single player. If you're playing single player, you're probably playing Cyberpunk.
Online, you're going to be on Halo.
Exactly.
So, and Microsoft basically has the two games that everybody's going to be pretty much talking about at the end of the year on their console. Yes, I understand there's going to be some PS4 games and stuff like that, but you can't deny just how diehard the multiplayer fans are for Halo.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, well, we still have a lot to see for Halo. They've been pretty quiet on it. So, I mean, as much as I do agree with you, obviously.
I know, with July. I know, we're all assuming that Microsoft is going to continue firing on all cylinders, but you never know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, again, it's interesting with this whole delay here for Cyberpunk. I know a lot of people in the chat, I know a few guys there were really looking forward to playing Cyberpunk in September. A few guys, I saw a whole bunch of people disappointed on Twitter. But at the same time, again, I would rather CD Projekt Red take their time with this game because, again, like, I'm all about quality experiences. And if they say that they need the time, then, hey, all the power to them. I would rather them take their time than have a rushed out piece of crap, right? So But that's just me. Anyways, guys, I am going to move on to something else. I'm going to move on to another topic. And a few days ago, EA had their EA Play Live announcement stream. And they had a lot of known reveals, obviously, such as like Madden and FIFA. But there were also a few teases for games like Dragon Age 4. I mean, we knew about that, but they haven't shown anything for it. The next Need for Speed and the next Battlefield game. And they also announced a new Star Wars game, Star Wars Squadrons, which had leaked on the Xbox store like a day or two beforehand. And of course, they teased a new skate game at the end, which got a lot of people excited. Now, Shock, I'm going to head right over to you first, but on this one, what did you think of EA's announcements overall during this EA Play live stream?
Typical EA, underwhelming. It was funny when their announcements were about to go live, or when their show was about to go live, and for some reason, like Dead Space was trending on Twitter, and everybody's like tweeting out like, "Why is Dead Space trending?" You know, they're thinking they just announced a new either remaster or a new Dead Space. It's because that studio's gone that used to make them, so that kind of got everybody's hopes up. But I mean, I was glad to hear that they're finally. I thought they would have already had a Battlefield 6 like ready to go, kind of like they had Battlefield 4 ready to go last gen at the launch of the new console. So, I mean, I'm excited that they're hopefully this is modern this time, because I'm kind of done with doing the World War I, World War II. So hopefully that, unfortunately, it was just a tease. So hopefully it comes out. I'm hoping at least next year, but if they didn't show a glimpse of anything.
Can I ask you a question since it's on top of my head with what you just said? Now, would you be against like a Vietnam setting?
Yeah.
So you want
just if they had done like World War I and then done a modern and then did in Vietnam, like mix it up. But I'm just tired of doing. I don't want to do like World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. It's just too much like old. I want to go back to modern. You can go back to Vietnam after the like say Battlefield 6, like mix it up. But
well, I'm just trying to think. Has there been an actual decent Vietnam style game actually done recently?
I don't know.
Vietnam,
I don't think I played one.
There was it in Battlefield Bad Company 2? They had an expansion for the multiplayer that was
or was Black Ops one of the Black Ops games like in a Vietnam setting?
I'm just saying, like, I understand the modern thing. I would love modern Battlefield games. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
not future, just modern, like.
But for me, I guess if you want to go historical, I would want to go historical that's not constantly done. And we all know World War I, World War II, when you go like, oh, historical battles, you know, that's where I just feel like maybe it would be fun to explore maybe, you know, parts of historical war that aren't too well known. Call me crazy. And I said it again.
Yeah. Oh, I gotcha. But yeah, Skate, I don't think, I never played any of the other Skate games. I think they just kind of had some people come out there and say they're making one since everybody's hype about the new Tony Hawk like remaster games. So I think that's just kind of them like not having anything ready, but hey, just say we're making it. I'm excited to play the new Star Wars, although we kind of, I mean, I guess it's more dedicated to like dogfight type style, but you pretty much have that Battlefield front right now, although it's more of like more of a grander battle system, because you're actually doing like a bigger events and not just, I guess, a deathmatch like fight. But
well, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep hopping in on that.
No, go ahead.
No, I just with Squadron, it seemed really cool to me when the guy was talking about how you're going to have to divert power from your weapons to the shields, and you can actually control what, like if you have someone chasing you, you can actually divert weapons from the power from the weapons to the rear shields to kind of give you more, you know, armor back there so somebody just can't shoot you down very quickly. So there's going to be a much more, I guess, mechanic to Squadrons.
Right?
It's all single player. Like when the guy did it.
All multiplayer, you mean?
Well, sorry, it's not going to be all multiplayer. No, he says there is a single player campaign, but what I picked up on is a single player campaign is actually going to be probably treated more like a tutorial. He said by the beginning, you're going to be doing simple stuff. By the end of the single player campaign, you're going to be multitasking and doing all sorts of functions in the cockpits.
I just don't understand how EA is this giant publisher and has Star Wars and isn't milking the crap out of it. Like, why?
Well, yeah.
You could have just build. You have so much money. All the studios you just totally destroyed and are gone now. But you could have had a Star Wars game like every year, something different, like some dark kind of like you had with Respawn. So I guess they did have that, but I don't know. It just feels, other than maybe that single player game, like it's like this is what you're doing with Rogue Squadron, not just a whole new AAA Rogue Squadron we haven't had in like well over a decade or almost.
If you actually listen to how dude talked about it, it sounded like EA actually had no interest in Rogue Squadron at all. The way he talked about it is what Motive? What that was that the name of the company that was?
Yeah, it's EA Motive that's doing it.
EA Motive, yeah. So he said Motive talked about how they went over and helped with Battlefront 2, and they helped primarily with the the flying aspect and the flying vehicles of Battlefront 2. And he said when they came back, they wanted to kind of build on that, and it was more of a passion project. And I think this was an idea that they actually had to propose to EA to kind of get the green light on a go-ahead. The way the story was just put out, it made it sound like EA actually had no interest in Rogue Squadron whatsoever until a developer said something.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting because this is like a lower price game, right? It's going to be, what, $40?
Yeah, it's $40.
And so, I mean, it is more of a budget title, which is interesting, and I don't think they announced any DLC for it as of right now. So
they said no microtransactions. At least that's what I heard.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so obviously they're expecting with the low budget game for it to make up its cost, with that price, obviously, with a low barrier of entry. But this game, though, it's only 5 versus 5 space combat, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's only 5 versus 5. Light and Rebels, Empire, and Republic. What I really have a question is, did anybody get triggered with Passion Project? Just EA saying that they had a Passion Project. I'm just curious because I thought that was a bad thing. And we're actually getting Star Wars off of a passion project. We're getting, basically, for the old school cats, X-Wing, TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter in today's age.
You're getting Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, Rogue Squadron too, yeah. But I'm thinking PC back in the day when it was first going on.
Oh, okay.
First started doing
I didn't do that.
Stuff.
I didn't do the PC one. For me, mine was on the Nintendo 64 with Rogue Squadron.
Right, and this is before that. So I'm when I see this, I'm thinking at the newest, which would have been X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. You're actually in the ship, in the cockpit, flying around, doing all this stuff. So it to me, I think this is cool, especially when they say no transactions. That doesn't mean that they won't have like a expanded campaign, or maybe to be added on as a like a season thing. I could see them doing that, because then it wouldn't be really a transaction or a microtransaction. It's an actual addition to, not just piddly this, piddly that. But it's cool that everything so far you can earn in the game, on how to customize your X-Wing or your TIE Fighter, the paint scheme, little details. So to me, that's pretty cool. And it seemed like, for me, I think you'll probably get the better experience if you're in VR. We won't know until we actually see this in play. I mean, we've seen the video, but until you actually have your hands on a controller and trying to look around and see the ease of, changing your power to your deflectors or to your engines, you're trying to manipulate the while you're in space battle, all this little details. In real life, you things slow down. You know what I'm saying? So when it's 3 seconds, it seems like 5 minutes. You're able to think and react, and it doesn't seem like time has elapsed. Or it seems like time has elapsed, but it really hasn't. So until we get into the game itself like that, it's going to be really cool. And it's neat that they took it from the previous games and said, let's make an actual game out of this, and not be a full-fledged $60 game. I think being a passion project was hey, I think we got something, but we're not sure if the board will like this, so we'll just do it as a lower, cheaper thing.
Did they give a date on it?
October 2nd, I think.
Yeah, October. So pretty
So I
soon,
guess
actually.
PSVR 2. Well, are they? I guess they are just doing it for PSVR since the new one's not been announced.
So
Correct.
what do you think of the first-person perspective, though? Like, I was kind of mind-blown. I was like, oh, it's all first-person perspective. I'm used to flying around in third person.
You see, and that's the thing. I was flying in a cockpit before, so when we were flying around in the third person like that, it was very
Is there
odd.
no option for third person?
Nope, it's
No.
all first-person perspective.
Yeah, that's correct.
Which I
weird.
also think. Well, I think it's actually possibly maybe kind of the tech behind it, because if you really think about it, when you're in third person perspective, you're rendering everything going on in that frame, versus when you're in first person, you're only rendering what's in front of the vehicle pretty much, or at least in the cockpit window, which means you're able to kind of put a little bit more detail into the functionality of the cockpit and everything else, because you're not having to render something that's going off because it just happens to be in the frame.
Yeah, you're missing half your space battle.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is this is only for Xbox One and PlayStation 4. They're not doing this for next gen. At least that's what they're saying currently.
Yeah, I'm sure that's one they could probably patch in as far as like
Right.
take advantage of it later.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That I'm sure it'll be a few patches for the SSDs, for the CPU power. I know what I just said was probably going to trigger some people, but just the overall composition of both consoles is going to, when the new consoles come out, they're going to graphically enhance everything. So,
And didn't they say that on the PS4, like the PS4 is basically just going to play the games just as they normally would, no improvement unless they're actually like boosted, the ones that actually get the boost.
that is correct.
Whereas Xbox is saying it can improve it just regardless if there's a patch or not.
That is correct too.
Yes.
Because they take it down to the software level where they don't break the game, but they if the game allows it, because there's nothing locked down, if they can unlock it, they'll unlock it. So if you're dealing with 30 frames per second, and the system can open that up, it's full throttle. There's no governor on it. You put the pedal to the metal and you go.
Also, if now this hasn't been something that's confirmed, but also if any of the machine learning tech that has been rumored to kind of be associated with the Series X, that's just another reason that no matter what game you put into it, it's always going to be improved, just because that's what the machine learning tech does.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. So if it'll improve your HDR, it'll put it in there. It'll improve the textures. There's a lot of things going on that Xbox has talked about, and there's a lot of things that we haven't heard from PlayStation just yet. So there's still information from both camps that we have not heard that we need to hear about.
Yeah, no, absolutely, guys. Now, EA had an indies game section. They announced 3 games at their stream. One game was a smaller title called Lost in Random. It kind of reminds me of a Tim Burton style kind of an animated movie, but like in a game. I thought that was a pretty cool game that got announced.
Lost in Randomness?
Yeah, Lost in Random, I think it was
I
called.
got Tim Burton Nightmare Before Christmas all the way when I saw that myself.
Mm-hmm. I was like, "What's this? What's this? What game do we have here?" That kind of a thing. I was like,
yeah,
"That's
all the
pretty
way.
sweet."
Yep.
Between that and Frankenweenie.
Yeah, no, that's another one. Number 9. Excuse me, not Agent, but Number 9.
Oh yes, or like Coraline and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I thought it was a very unique game, and then I didn't think they'd actually show off a trailer for it, but then they actually had it at the end. I was like, wow, that's actually it's got some nice details, and the animation. I was like, damn, that it looks like I don't know. I was impressed by it, and then you had a game called It Takes Two from Hazelight, and another interesting co-op game. the developer behind A Way Out and Brothers. Definitely, I'm very curious to see that they did another co-op style game, but it looked pretty cool as well. Definitely a lot of interesting design choices there. And then you had a title called Rocket Arena, which to me, it just kind of looked like a mix between Fortnite and Overwatch. I mean, actually, it's supposed to be coming out soon, I think next month, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know. To me, I wasn't as impressed. I mean, it did look kind of wacky. I don't know. Which, out of those three games, guys, which ones did you prefer?
Oh. You go first.
The one... Lost in Random was definitely got me interested, but when we saw the interview with the dev on the other one, what was that called? It Takes Two, right? Is that one?
Yeah, with Joseph Fares, the guy who was like, fuck the Oscars.
That's the one, yep. That one there, after watching his interview, or his little review, or whatever, his spiel, basically, that more so got me interested in anything else. Just the way he was talking about changing the industry. He's got the background from both sides of it. He's got his feet in gaming, he's got his feet in the movie, and he's trying to change the way that we make games. So I commend him. So that's what gets me going. Is we don't need. How many times have we talked about all these sequels? You know what I mean? What does Mario do? They changed the way Mario is. That's why Mario's got so many sequels. No one complains about another Mario game. You're like, oh, Forza 7. Oh, Halo, whatever. Oh, you know what I mean? Gran Turismo. You know what I mean? You got all these numbers that you're counting up, but you want new IPs, right? Well, this guy's creating new IPs every single time. He's changing up the format for everybody. And it's cool that it's not just, okay, well, we'll go with cel shading this time. He's trying to mix it up even more so with the heart of the game. So when you're playing, you're changing how you feel when you're playing. You know what I mean? It's not just a game that it's a tearjerker or brings in the certain emotions, just everything collectively. And that's what I like about it. That's why I want to definitely keep my eye on that one.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's the thing too. We're coming off of a generation that, even remasters, right? You see a lot of game remasters. Some of them aren't really that impressive. And then you see a developer here that, he actually tries to do something different. So, and I can definitely commend that. I that's what makes me take a look into the studio's games even more, because they're trying to do something a little more unique and take risks, right, as opposed to doing the same old.
Yeah, so. Well, that's the thing. Look at Psychonauts when it first came out. Yeah, it had that cartooniness or animatron, or not animatronic, claymation style look to it, but it was different. But it totally flipped everything different on its head.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And Psychonauts too, I'm definitely curious to see. They'll probably show it off at the Xbox July event. So guys, overall, would you consider EA's stream, EA Play Live, in my opinion, I think it's a bit of a disappointment. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think they should have shown off Battlefield American Revolution, or the sequel to it, American Civil War. I'm kidding, right?
Yeah, they could have just done that on a quick sizzle reel of announcements. Yeah. There's no reason
actually I wanted to see Battlefield 6 Crusaders. I don't want no firearms at all. I want people like swords, stones, sticks, maybe a couple cannons in the background, but yeah, nothing too shooter.
So you want the AC Odyssey, Assassin's Creed version?
Pretty much.
He wants a mix of Assassin's Creed and Sea of Thieves. So
pretty much.
Sea of Assassins.
Sea of Thieves had little pistols and muskets. No, I want to get rid of all that.
Yeah, true.
You can just go play Black Flag again.
Or what's that game? Atlas?
Yeah.
Very similar.
Did they ever release that pirate game that Ubisoft?
Skulls and Bones?
Skull and Bones? No.
No, they haven't. They've been pushing it back. I think they realized that they screwed up when Sea of Thieves actually started doing something.
Yeah. Well, Ubisoft pulled back a lot of their IP. So
Pour one out for Beyond Good and Evil 2. That game's never happening.
oh man, like
As soon as I saw that game, I was like, this game is never coming out.
Yeah, it's like I don't trust Ubisoft when it comes to Beyond Good and Evil. I mean,
maybe next gen. That looked like a next gen game. Like what they're trying to achieve. That I feel like the SSD is what.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to be going as, they were going really, like quick. From what I recall, they were. Yeah, it was a huge amount of area too. I was like, wait, this is coming supposedly rumored for the Switch as well. I was like.
As alive as the city was and as vast as it was, yeah, it might actually be PS6.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a movie.
Well, the world was huge, yeah, and it had so much detail to it. That's why I was thinking. I was like, no, this is definitely going to be a next-gen title. And really, I'm very skeptical of Ubisoft, like I was saying, just because, remember the whole Watch Dogs, the original game fiasco back in, 2012, 2013? Like, I don't know. I just don't trust them with their presentation of games. I'm like, no, that game's going to get downgraded, and it might get pushed back to next-gen. So keep an eye on it. Actually... Wait, Ubisoft, do they have, they must have their own event coming up soon, right?
I think they're staying pretty low, in my opinion.
They must have something coming up. They
got Assassin's Creed. I'm sure there'll be some actual gameplay, possibly at a later Microsoft event.
I think they're trying to ride the Assassin's Creed wave, purely because, this was on Game Rant. Watch Dogs Legion is becoming its own worst enemy. Pretty much outside of Assassin's Creed, almost everything was delayed and all this other stuff, and it's definitely making Ubisoft look bad.
Where's the Splinter Cell? What?
Yeah.
I thought for sure when they announced all those games getting released backwards compatibility, it was coming, but nope. It's that game from just the buzz, and everybody keep talking about it. All you'd have to do is hear the sound of his goggles turning on, and people would go nuts. That just wins the E3 space. Well, maybe not, but at least it'd be probably one of the biggest announcements. Say had there been an E3, new Splinter Cell and bring Michael Ironside back. That would be just hearing his voice or something.
Well. Splinter Cell has been one of those games that it's been teased in their games, some goggles left around here in one game and some outfits in another. And there's been all kinds of talk about it. It's just, I don't know why they're just sitting on it. It's such a valuable IP to have. So
it's basically from the last couple of games that they released, didn't do as well. And right now it's got a bad stigma on those devs. None of those devs want to touch it, because they know that the hype is going to be overwhelmingly. So no matter what they do, they feel like they're going to lose, and they don't want to do that. They don't want to be associated with the losing.
Just go back to square one. That was the problem with, because you had Conviction. It was in development hell. They totally scrapped it halfway and did something different. Blacklist didn't have Michael Ironside, and it came out late in the gen. So I think people just kind of forgot about it, and then Double Agent wasn't. That's kind of the tipping point where it kind of fell off, because the next gen versions were all in the daytime, whereas the PS2 and Xbox version were at night, which I don't know why.
Yeah, see, and that was the thing when they didn't have Michael Ironside there. Nobody said nothing, but he was going through. He was dealing with cancer at that time, but nobody said nothing. So everybody was just bashing on the game, because once they realized it wasn't Michael, they were like, "Oh, this game sucks," and they were just basing it off of the character.
Yeah, I heard the game was pretty good. Early, I haven't played it yet.
It wasn't that bad.
Can't say I haven't played it. Last Splinter Cell game I played was Conviction. I didn't end up playing Blacklist, but I'd heard that it was okay, but again, Splinter Cell had kind of fallen from grace apparently. So I don't know. It would be nice for it to return to its former glory. I remember back on the OG Xbox days, that was one of the games to have.
I missed that I never played Spies vs. Mercs.
See, and that would be the game to bring back. It's on the OG Xbox. It's 2 generations ago. Remaster the original game, give us some tweaks so it throws us off from the original story for those that have played, so that way we get some more information and do the stuff that we couldn't do before and we have the tech to do now.
They could totally just do a remaster of the first trilogy and put Spies vs. Mercs in there, kind of revamped. There you go.
I'd rather have
that would do hotcakes, and then that would kind of test the waters. Okay, do people actually want us to put in the work and to develop a whole new game and new story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
but that'd be a good package, and that's why I did like Watch Dogs, because it did give you kind of that Spies vs. Mercs feel, where you could enter somebody else's game and you're like hiding, like if you ever played any of the multiplayer in Watch Dogs, where you'd be in somebody's game sneaking around doing hacking, and you would have to make sure that you basically look like an NPC to them. Like you'd have to walk and kind of blend into the crowd, which I thought was really cool. But
is that why I kept on dying?
Yeah, probably. It's funny because you could always tell if somebody was in your game because you couldn't pause the game when someone entered your game because it had to keep staying live. So it was like, wait, I can't press start right now. Oh, someone's entered my game, and then I'd be looking around, and you just see a car like backing up, like out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, there he is. And just snipe him.
Oh man. Let's see. We got all kinds of people in the chat. We got Delilah HD. Hey Delilah, I hope you're doing well. We got Predator H2O. Thanks for stopping by, brother. 108 Dragons TV. Oh, hey bud, thanks for joining us. UK Dazarus. Oh man, dude. Hope you're doing well over there. Do you ever sleep? Holy moly, it's pretty late over there. Crazy Greek dude. Oh man, we got so many people that joined us in the chat. Mr. Kima's here. NLG, we have Mike here. Alex Basha, Crooks, Valorian. Thanks everybody for stopping by. Patman Jones. Love the energy in the chat tonight. Fellas, we will move on to our next topic. And it looks like Microsoft is going to be upgrading their XCloud servers to the Xbox Series X in 2021. Now, according to The Verge's Tom Warren, sources familiar with Microsoft plans say that they've already begun to upgrade their servers, and that Microsoft is also experimenting with dedicated server blades for the PC for streaming PC games over to XCloud. Now, Centurion, I'm going to head to you first on this specific topic. How much of an improvement will this make to Project xCloud?
Massive. According to the article, it said it would be able to, because right now they're running on Xbox One S blades going to Series X. They would be able to do basically Series X style computations times 4. So it'd be like having one Series X blade is basically 4 Xbox One S blades. So it kind of basically you're quadrupling your processing. Also, the nice part is, in my opinion, with using Series X hardware, what me and Dreadpool were talking about earlier was machine learning. Well, machine learning actually pulls a lot of its learning capabilities from the cloud, and it gets powered by the cloud. And so therefore, by making your cloud infrastructure that much stronger, you're just making the machine learning capabilities that Microsoft will have access to that much better. So it's like a win-win for Microsoft to put this technology into those servers, and it's going to do nothing but kind of benefit us as consumers, unless, because we had kind of went back and forth. I think it's ironic that I kind of gave you a little like an article that was like the other half to what you showed me, showing how Microsoft and Apple are starting to butt heads over their ideas of what it comes to consumer practices. Like, did you read the article that I sent?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're talking about Apple, right?
Yeah, like Apple deciding to see, like, everybody's here going to be like, let Apple do what they want to do. It's Apple. Well, check it out. When you create a system of a monopoly that is the Apple Store, It kind of rings or echoes what Microsoft actually went through. It's actually mentioned in the article over 20 years ago, where Microsoft used to be, the software to have, and they were worldwide. And it was all packaged with Internet Explorer, and that was the only option you were allowed to use. And they kind of got in trouble and were found guilty of antitrust practices and monopoly, because they were forcing consumers to basically buy a product. There was no competition, and all the competition that was on there was being taxed to death. Basically, Microsoft got in trouble for it. And now Apple's doing the same thing. Any app on the store has 30% behind it. Basically you're getting into a whole different territory. But if you read the articles, it's quite interesting on the difference right now between XCloud on the PC, XCloud on Android is night and day compared to the iOS version of XCloud. And sadly, it seems like Apple is becoming very, very dictatorship on that system, which is why Microsoft has got their hands tied right now when it comes to the xCloud capabilities on iOS. Sorry, that's a lot. I know. If you read into it, it's like a big pile of crap right now, what's going on with that situation.
Absolutely. Well, again, it could just be the fact that, Apple's playing a little bit of hardball and, doesn't want one of their biggest competitors using, their app store to...
I'm still confused what the issue is.
Well, the issue is, so when you have a set of rules and regulations, you cannot pick and choose who are held accountable, because that becomes discrimination. They actually do make amendments in their rules for corporations that can, they've amended their rules for Amazon because Apple wants 30% of any app that's on that store. They want 30%. And what the company that really started this was an email app called Hey, where you would go online and sign up for this app, for this feature, and you would pay $100 a year online. And they first started publishing the app on the App Store, and basically they got clipped because Apple was like, well, we're not getting our 30% because you're basically bypassing it and doing all this other stuff. And that was one of their infractions. And so now they're like, well, what about Amazon and Netflix and them? Netflix charges a subscription service that you have to sign up for online. And they're like, well, we made amendments in our rules for them. And they're like, you can't play favoritism. Now you're dipping into discrimination territory. And it also violates what happens here in the United States is nothing like over there in Europe. The EU is very consumer conscious. They have a lot of consumer practices put in place. Like here in the States, anything with a copyright behind it, a CD, a movie, a video game, the minute you buy it and open it, that is yours, no matter what. Even if you absolutely hated it, hell, most of the time, even if it's broken. Over there in the EU, if a game has bugs in it, that's actually considered defective, and you're actually allowed to return it. And over there, they have a lot of consumer protections that actually allow you to return stuff, even if it's copyrighted. So there's a lot of stuff over in Europe to protect the consumer. Over here in the United States, there's a lot of stuff to protect the owner of that software. So basically, it's kind of flip-flopped, which is why it's a big deal over in Europe.
Is Stadia not on iOS?
No. And as far as I know, I don't believe... I know they've even made a few exceptions for Google,
because that'd be like the same thing. So if Google ever gets part of it, and then like Microsoft does it, then that's
I guess this whole situation with Apple, because if you read the articles, I'll send all three of them. It's like a 3-article thing. I guess with the situation with Apple has kind of rubbed a lot of companies the wrong way, and as a result, Microsoft and Google have actually kind of got a little bit more kosher. Because of Apple.
Yeah, you cannot use Stadia on Apple. With them wanting to take a 30% cut, who takes a 30% cut from iTunes? See, that's the other thing.
And that's the other thing. They're pushing their iTunes, their own streaming. And so basically they have created a system now that the consumer does not actually have a free choice in the matter. They're actually swayed because, it's going to be easier to get what I need over here because there's less restrictions, and Apple has created those. So when they were smaller, it wasn't a big deal, but because now they're actually becoming a worldwide thing, that's the whole idea behind Monopoly, if you've ever played, is to get total control. But regretfully, there's actually laws in place all around the world in different governments that prevent a company from having a worldwide monopoly.
On a side note, this kind of puts a nail in Stadia's coffin.
Yeah, you could think
you can't flaunt that 10 teraflops. Now it's behind. Soon to be behind the Xbox Series X blades when they get that going.
Mm-hmm. Well, XCloud is completely dominating it. I mean, again, you look at what they're stating here and suggesting that they want to be able to stream PC games to basically the Xbox. There's the potential to stream PC games to Xbox and other devices. Like, that's a pretty big advantage, having like all kinds of these, I want to say, more PC exclusive, PC centric games being able to be played across Microsoft's ecosystem. I mean, that's a pretty clear advantage.
Now, if Microsoft somehow allows you to, kind of like they're saying, you can play the games through XCloud on your phone, like once it releases, like I'm assuming all of your library is going to be streamable. I'm not sure if that's true, but if that can go to your PC, not just like through using Game Pass, but that can go to your PC, that would just destroy.
I'm not trying to keep that bandwagon going, but I think it's actually funny you mentioned your library. So that is why XCloud does not work properly on iOS right now, because of the library. Basically, a way the rules are kind of written is Apple would want 30% for every game in your library.
Ooh.
Basically,
how does that work? They're not
because
they're
the
not
game
selling to you.
because the games were purchased outside of the app, so
you don't
that's
purchase them.
Huh?
Well, I mean, like some of them you don't like for Game Pass. Well, if they're going with their Game
that's
Pass,
the other problem. That's the other problem. You're getting into the Game Pass subscription online outside of so they're not getting the 30% out of the Game Pass subscription. They're not getting the 30% out of the games that you can buy through XCloud if it ever makes it to where you can buy games off the store and stream them. That's the thing. It was like basically they want 30% here, 30% there, 30%, 30%, 30%. And it's just like, what about all the stuff you guys are basically, you're just making it to where people aren't going to want to use our systems. You're making it to use their systems. And Microsoft and a bunch of companies they've actually really investigated. They've got 2 open investigations right now in Europe for antitrust violations.
See, that's also why the iOS version of XCloud is not. It only has a couple games, and it hasn't progressed because they can't do anything with it. Unless you buy it through their store, you don't have access to that game. So if you buy it through their store, they're getting that 30%. Xbox is getting the other 70%, but the rest of your library, because you didn't buy it there, you can't play it. So that's that slippery slope. Like I said, you can thank Ajit Pai, our chairman of the Federal Communications Commission in America. He's the one that got rid of a lot of the stuff that we need.
Oh yeah, he was the one that was trying to take down like net neutrality, right?
Yeah, he took down net neutrality. He went on Facebook and created a video, or not Facebook, I'm sorry, YouTube, made a video using somebody else's song and got copyright strike right away. Bam. It's like,
Yeah, it's
how smart is he, and how did he end up in that position?
Yeah, no, that's true. But guys, the whole again.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to beat on Apple there. Sorry.
Oh no, but it's interesting with the whole process that Project XCloud is going through right now, and just kind of the hurdles that they have to go over in order to, reach as many people as they want. You think about how many people use iOS, use iPhones, iPads, etc. And of course they want to expand into that base, right? Because Phil and Xbox Game Studios talks about reaching 1 billion
Oh yeah.
people. So how else are they going to do that? They need, well, they do definitely need to hit that iOS market to achieve that. And I don't know, Apple's just not playing nice. They're playing hardball with that, unfortunately. And I'll be honest, they're not really a great company to deal with overall when it comes to being nice. So, but either way, guys, it is going to be interesting in the next couple of months to see where Project XCloud, how it rolls out officially and into the next year. And it just, it's exciting. It's exciting to hear all this stuff. But guys, I'm going to move on to some other news. And it appears that Sony will not be adopting a unified upgrade program for the PlayStation 4 games moving over to the PlayStation 5. A Japanese website called GameSpark had contacted Sony Japan to clarify whether players can expect a similar upgrade to the PS5 from PlayStation 4. And according to provided translations, Sony is leaving it up to the publishers on how to approach the cross-gen upgrades, meaning there's no real unified system there in place, and there's no real rules or regulations to follow for that. So I'll leave this open to whoever on the panel wants to chime in first. Does this leave Xbox with a huge advantage going forward into next-gen consoles?
Wow. All right. I guess I'll hop in on that one.
Go for it.
Okay, so now you're asking, is smart delivery an advantage for Microsoft?
That's correct.
Okay, so yes, and that is purely because we're going to take a look at the major thing, backwards compatibility. People can sit there and say what you want, but it really does make a difference when you can take a game from we'll use Red Dead Redemption. You take that game, put it in a 360, you can see it you see it as it was back then. You put it in an Xbox One, you're going to see an Xbox One S, you'll see the enhancements from it being there. Then you put it in an X, you'll see those enhancements, and so on with the Series X, because the Series X is also going to upscale stuff. It's going to make your older games play better, look better. That's going to be an awesome thing, especially if you're a retro gamer and enjoy playing older titles. I happen to enjoy playing some of the older stuff, and I've also missed out on some of these older titles growing up, so it's a great chance to play them. But also, it means that on the PlayStation side, pretty much, even though you're going to have backwards compatibility with a PS5, when you put one of these PS4 games in, it's pretty much going to be what it was on the PS4 Pro, purely because there's no software there for it to update or download. That's the whole idea behind this smart delivery, is it knows what console the game is being played on, and it's actually able to download patches and software based on what it's being played on. So with PlayStation not having that, pretty much you're going to see little to no improvement when it comes to your older titles. Is anybody kind of hearing me on that?
I'm hearing you. I took it as a little bit different approach, that it's actually, you're still going to have your titles as an Xbox One title, but the smart delivery is going to say when you have a Series X and it's a game specifically built for Series X, that you're going to get the Series X version versus the One version.
Can you guys hear my air conditioner? I am so sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's not too bad.
So that's the way I'm seeing it, but that's that's where we're asking for a little bit better clarification from Xbox. How is it literally? I mean, I know it's a packet delivery system, but when it says, okay, I have, let's say, Halo. All right, so we have Halo Infinite coming out. I have an Xbox One. I'm getting the Xbox One version. I have a Series X. I'm getting the Series X version. They never clarified how smart delivery works with an Xbox One game that is not a Series One game. So with that being left out, the way I believe it to be is if you have an Xbox One game, like you said, Red Dead 2 is going to be a one game across the board. You're going to get the highest fidelity. You're still going to get the Xbox One X version because it's going to be able to handle it. But I don't think there is a Series X version, so you're not going to get that version.
Yeah, I think Smart Delivery is just referring to if there is a next gen version, it knows to give you the highest version.
Right. It gives you the highest version it can give you because of where you're at. I don't think it's not going to give you anything better. That's where the AI portion that we talked about earlier will open up the graphics, the HDR, the frames per second. It'll open up all that.
So yeah, not only is Sony, we don't know if they have a system like that, so there might just be an inconvenience where you have to go to their store, but they haven't announced that they're going to do anything like that, which a lot of people are saying, well, there's no, all the PS5 exclusives, they're not going to be on PS4. But to that same note, to think they're not going to put God of War or like The Last of Us when it's doing crazy numbers, if they're not going to remaster it again, I think you're crazy to think that.
Yeah. Well, they're not being as aggressive with Microsoft in this manner. I mean, you look at what EA had said about Madden 21, that if you opt for, what was it? If you want to be able to have the upgraded PS5 version for that game, you'll have to
redeem it, or you'll have to buy it as late as like December, and then you have to upgrade to the next gen version. They've extended it now to like June. But I think that's the difference. It's not doing smart delivery. So that one you have to actually upgrade. I probably in the Xbox and PS5 in the store. So that's where I'm thinking that's how probably PS5's games are going to work. If there is a free upgrade in general, you're going to probably have to dig it out.
But there's also another stipulation in that too, that only the PS5, the one with the Blu-ray player, is only able to have that upgrade, whereas the digital console will not, apparently.
Oh no, the digital console will. You have to have a digital copy though. They don't want you to get like one up on them by like buying the disc. Oh, I got the digital PS5. Cool, gave me a free digital copy, and then you go sell your copy. Although by June of next year, it'd be worth $5. So it's mad. It'd be worth pennies. You'd be lucky to get $5. So I mean, so as long as you buy, if you're doing digital and you move the digital or the disc version, that's fine. But you just can't buy the disc version and then go to digital and then expect to get it.
Right. See, and that's the other thing is I think it's a marketing label that Microsoft is using, and it's a marketing tactic. We have this said thing. Like, do you have power windows, or do you have let's say cruise control, or do you have an advanced cruise control? Right? Because now cruise control on the newer cars can keep up with the car and actually slow down when you get behind the car, and it keeps up with the pace. And then when you go around the car, it speeds up back to where you were before. So it's like an advanced cruise control. So it's just when it comes to this, you're going to have your Madden for your PS4. And then when it comes down to the PS5, you're going to have to download the PS5 version yourself. You're not going to have it automatically do it for you. Now, yet again, it's a shady thing when and it's a sports game, so I can understand why they let this go. But if this is the way that developers are going to take it, I think it's a little shady, because if you have to buy it within a certain amount of time and then get the next console within a certain amount of time, not everybody can get the newest consoles within the year, so they might have to wait a year to get the next console. We already know for this season, both of these consoles are going to be, limited supply. The supply and demand, look at for in the middle of March, look at the Switch, look how fast that thing sold out. It was a supply and demand. They couldn't meet the demand.
They were having manufacturing like part shortages before the whole COVID-19 kicked off, and then that just exacerbated it even more.
I don't think either company is going to be able to keep up with the demand, but I really do feel there is going to be a major difference on the demand between the two consoles, where people are going to be demanding the. I feel like there's going to be more Xboxes than PlayStation, because from what at least I've seen floating around on the internet, Invader knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Microsoft has, I guess, been spending a lot of money on production to make as many models of the Series X or maybe even a Series X. I mean, excuse me, S. But they've been spending a lot of money on production, and I think it was like what they were saying, like almost like was like they were saying PlayStation was at least half the production if Xbox wasn't more.
Sorry, what was that again?
Because you guys know the at least the info that was at least put in the DM for us was it showed that PlayStation was behind in production with Microsoft, like 2-1.
I think Microsoft had more of the production lines. They were outnumbering.
Yeah,
them 2-1.
basically, but Microsoft had spent so much money that I guess the production companies didn't want to kind of screw with their plans to help PlayStation make more.
Well, I guess they were saying there was nothing they could do about it because Microsoft, there's no other production lines.
Yeah.
They were exhausted. There's no other like lines for them. Hey, we need more PS5s here, but they're all accounted for apparently from what that.
Yeah, and that's where it was just saying that I guess they were kind of saying that PS5 was a little bit late to the game when it came to getting production models going.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, about the smart delivery. There, and I see it kind of in the chat. The reason why I don't think like Sony's going to do it with their first party, other than them just being still quiet on it, is everybody was saying they already had this. They already had cross buy. Yeah, you're right. And the only AAA game that even took advantage of that was Call of Duty. Advanced Warfighter is the only game that went from PS3 to PS4. Sony made sure to exclude their first-party games from that program. And there was also a $10 upgrade for like some of the Call of Duty, some of the Call of Duty Ghosts and Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Battlefield 4. You could put in your PS3 disc in your PS4 and redeem a $10 or basically pay $10 to upgrade to the next gen version. Sony again excluded that and charged you $50 for Last of Us Remastered a year from when it released on the PS3. So they had programs like that, even wanted to charge you a little bit, and they just said, no, we're not doing it with our first party games. So I don't see them doing it here because you just look how Last of Us sold 20 million. Like, it's not going to sell 20 million. Last of Us 2, even if it's breaking records, it's not breaking 20 million again if they only stick to PS4. And I just feel like they're definitely going to have a next gen version. There definitely is going to be a PS5 box copy of Last of Us 2. That I'll bet anybody a game that's going to happen.
Last of Us 2 remastered now with multiplayer.
And you think they're going to give you a free copy of that by you buying a used copy of The Last of Us 2 on PS4 and you putting that disc in? I had my doubts about that one.
No, it's going to be The Last of Us
Xbox,
2.5.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them because guess what? Their whole new business model is Game Pass. They're going to give you the next gen game anyway because you're a subscriber to Game Pass. So they figure, well, then it really doesn't make sense for us not to give you the next gen version because most of our subscribers, they're hoping, are going to do Game Pass anyway. So I think that's their reasoning of like, hey, it's no sweat on our back because our new model is that's not going to matter anymore, but it's going to make us look good. And it is for Xbox, but I just don't see them doing it. If they're going to give you a free PS5 copy because you went to GameStop and buy a used copy where they didn't get any money. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, no,
I don't
absolutely.
think Sony's going to do it with their big first party that people are going to buy it anyway. And they're so global that Xbox isn't in Japan, basically. You know, it's a little step and, a little bug on the floor or, on the wall or whatever I'm trying to say. In Europe, some stores don't even sell Xboxes now because they put their first party games on Game Pass. They got all, pissy about, that. Oh, no one's, what's the reason me selling it then? But I don't know. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, you make some valid points there, Shock, and it's interesting how both Microsoft and Sony are approaching these upgrades. Whether I know like Dreadpool was saying, Microsoft is obviously using smart delivery as a huge marketing push going into next gen. Sony's just being PlayStation's being carefree with it. I would say, they're not really stressing it, to say the least. And I don't know. I think it'll be interesting how the next couple of months, how things get talked about, especially by PlayStation. But you know what, guys? We are going to head into our final topic of the evening. And there's been a series of rumors going on about Xbox's big July event. Now, according to a rumor from the Beyond 3D forums, a poster named Eastman, with a pretty decent track record of having proven inside information when it comes to Microsoft stuff, stated that Xbox Lockhart will finally be announced as the Xbox Series X, and that this console will be much smaller than the Xbox Series X and will be an all-digital console. With regards to the pricing, he said that the Series S will be half the price of the Series X. The insider doesn't know the final Xbox Series X price, but he had heard that Microsoft was prepared to price the console at $400. Wow, that would be extremely competitive, I'd say. Now, again, guys, I will keep this final topic open to whoever wants to jump in first. Now, what do you guys think of the validity of these pricing rumors? Will Microsoft be super competitive with the console pricing?
I guess I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
They said they won't be beat out on price. So from like I said before, I've heard 450 was a number that they're willing to work with, and so up or down, so as low as 200 is going to be very shocking, but it is one way to beat them out. So it's going to be a wait and see right now with the cat and mouse game that they're playing with the pricing. So would I want it to be that? Sure. Would there be some negative to it? Yeah, because people are going to be like, look, it's a cheaper model. It's nothing. Why? You know what I mean? It's plastic. It's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody likes to use that cheap motto when something's cheaper, unless it's their console, because then it's a good deal. So I see the game is going to still be played until we finally get these prices out. But man, if it's 400 for the Series X, oh yeah, even better. And I mean, who can honestly complain that these consoles that are leaps and bounds compared to what we went from 360 and the PS3 to the One and the PS4? I mean, this is leaps and bounds better. When we went from PS2 graphics and the playability and the Xbox, the OG Xbox graphics to the following gen, it was like night and day. Holy cow, look at this. You're looking at Call of Duty. You're like, I can't believe how detailed these graphics are, right? Granted, nowadays we're looking at it like, at least it's not blocks, But then we went from last gen to this gen. It really didn't seem to push the bounds up until we did the refresh on these consoles. That's when they started going in and putting real quality polish on the games and getting more out of it that the CPUs couldn't do before. Now we're actually getting more of a leap in every direction. So it's not just this, it's not just that, it's all of it is a leap. So we're going to be able to see something, and to get it for $400, that's amazing.
And apparently the S rumored to be half that price. So if that thing's 200, that is going to be a steal, because if that's aiming for like 1440p 60, and you're getting the SSD tech, the newer CPU, the newer RAM, just not the GPU, basically, that's going to be a steal for a lot of people.
Right. And we don't know the pricing on the all digital PS5. So we don't know what they're going to do with that. I know people have rumored that they're going to add more memory. We don't know. We really don't know.
Mhm.
They haven't said anything. The only thing we've seen that was said was a negative was to the Series S because it's going to have less teraflops. Okay, so what? But like you said, it's going to do 1440p. It's going to have basic, and we have checkerboarding now that can make 1440p look like 4K. So is it that big of a deal? No, it's not really that big of a deal. It's the ones that want to nitpick and tear it apart. But in retrospect, who's going to buy the $200 console? Just about everybody.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it would, especially in this economy. I think that would fly off the shelves.
Yeah, exactly. I see the Series X being more of coming out first launch. Whether or not the S will come out this year is good to me. It's hard to say. I would want them to release it for before Christmas, sell it out, get it out there. But at the same time, as a business owner, you kind of want you have a premium product and it's going to be at a limited amount, it's going to sell out. So wouldn't you want the more money up front right away versus a little bit here and a little bit there? You know what I mean? So you want the big pie, or you want to share the big pie and the little pie and still only get so much, so it's like a catch-22, because if you get that little pie out there, guess what? Everybody gets a sample of that. Everybody gets into it. It's easier for everybody to take a spoon of apple pie. You know what I mean?
I think
They get into it.
Yeah, and I think one thing that'd be smart for them to make sure they get this out at the same time as the X is the whole talk is the Xbox Series X is the more powerful console. And so when people see that smaller, if we don't know the form factor yet, but if maybe it's just a little bit smaller, then people might think, oh, okay, that's maybe the smaller version of the PS5. So they're probably thinking that system's still more powerful or, as powerful as the PS5, like digital edition, because they're both rumored to be digital. Then I think that could fly off the shelves because people are like, well, this is $200. That PS5 digital, let's say maybe 400. Like that's going to seem like a steal to them. And even though that might be confusing the some of the casual gamers thinking that it's more powerful.
See, and that's why going back to our previous topic,
could be a good trick, but
it would be. But that's why going back to our previous topic, why is the Blades coming out in 2021? Well, wouldn't you want all your games and your consoles to be able to be sold now to show the quality? And once all that stuff settles down, then you start doing your Blades and start doing your replacements. Because
they said that's not coming until later. I don't think they're even starting on it yet. But
right,
well, it's
so
being tested.
Even then, I mean, you're talking about 4 consoles, right? Four Xbox One X console, or I'm sorry, Series. Xbox One S consoles and 1 Series X. So that's 4 Blades, and that's 16 separate games that they could produce out of 1 blade. So why would you do that when you can actually sell those 4 to make that profit right away and make your customers happy? All that stuff can be down the line. So they're going to be pushing as much as they can for this holiday season. And then once the demand gets caught up, then they'll start doing it. So it'll probably be right before Christmas of next year when they'll have enough to be able to catch up.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now,
my AC doesn't sound like that.
that was a shock sound.
But you know what? Let me just kind of throw something in on this. One thing I like about all this is it shows the position that Microsoft and Sony are 2 totally different positions. Microsoft can afford to actually break even or even take a loss when it comes to putting a console out, which is at least why I feel Microsoft can be competitive with price if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, they definitely can eat the loss better than most companies.
Well, see, now that's the only thing, though. It's not really. It's more like what you would call a calculated loss. Because
that's
when
what
you when you first produce these machines, the very first console that comes out off of the assembly line is going to be the most expensive console you ever produce out of that series, generation, whatever you want to call it, because as it progresses, the technology becomes more mainstream, so more people have it. It becomes more affordable. The cost of manufacturing goes down, so they can actually calculate how long it's going to be before that you go from a loss to breaking even to making profit, just based on the progression of the technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they definitely want to make up those losses through subscriptions and game sales for sure.
And that's that's the funniest thing. I'm sorry, but when you think you're going to support your brand of console, right, and you're going to buy 2 of them, you think you're really supporting them? No, you're not. You're putting them in the hole faster. Like Centurion said, as time progresses, and then you buy that next console later on when it's cheaper for them, they're not losing as much up front. And that's the funny thing is like, oh, I'm going to buy 2, 3, 4 consoles, whatever. You're not helping the cause, man.
No, you're not.
You're limiting who can buy it, and you're limiting who's playing, because you're only one person. If you have 4 consoles, are you playing all 4 at the same time? No, you're not helping that console. So,
oh yeah, for the first couple years of any console from this point forward, for the first couple years, subscriptions and software are going to be where your profits are at. You're not going to see any profit returns on a console hardware for the first couple years for sure.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to buy those games at the beginning of the launch, right along with it, and that's why they need to have a good steady amount of games. You know, we can't just have like Phil said, 8 games all on day one. Who's going to play 8 games at the same time?
You think Microsoft drops the price in July, or we keep going the Cold War route?
I say Cold War.
No, I can honestly see July, because they said the event is July 25th. Is that what I saw? I saw a rumor.
Oh,
I'm not 100% sure if they've actually announced that or not.
At least the rumor I have seen was somewhere July 25th. I know there was a 2 involved. As soon as I saw it, I was like, damn, they want to freaking wait. But I think because, like, I remember when they revealed the price, it was at E3 in June, and this was for the X. And then they eventually opened pre-orders in August. I really do see, at least, pulling out of the thin air, the stars reaching for them. I could see them actually releasing the price late July, if they're having an event late July, and they pretty much might just flat out say pre-orders go up at the end of August.
See, and that's the thing for me is late July is close to August. When they released the games for pre-order was during Gamescom.
Yes.
So if Gamescom has some sort of online thing and then they're a part of it, that's when I see it happening. So that's where I'm leaning.
Everything is. I didn't mean to interrupt, but Gamescom, it feels like, is going to be wrapped up with Jeff Keighley this year, and Jeff Keighley has not done Microsoft really any good, in my opinion. I don't hate the guy, but we all know he definitely loves PlayStation, and I really don't know if Microsoft might even involve Gamescom, at least when it comes to revealing the price.
No, I think they'll be doing their own thing from the sounds of it. It's interesting.
I didn't mean to interrupt Dreadpool. I'm sorry.
No. It's all good. We're on the same page. We're on different pages. As long as we get our communication across and we both understand each other, it's all good.
Absolutely. Now, this insider, he labeled Xbox's event as a night of mic drops that Xbox wants to eventually pump out. Well, I mean, supposedly they label the price for the consoles at the event, but supposedly they want to pump out AAA games. That's their plan, to pump out AAA games like each month. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, I would say. Is it possible for Xbox game studios, like as they are now, to pump out games at such a scale, or do they still need to buy more studios? Because, like, I mean, to me, if you're gonna pump out like a AAA game each month, like that's a tall order. I mean, you don't see like a lot of the other like big console
Oh.
makers, big publishers doing that at the moment. So I think that that's stretched out quite a bit. I personally don't see them
Yeah.
doing that, but I mean, you could have a AAA game
If they're
every
counting
3
maybe
months.
like Medium as one, Scorn as another, like maybe that, but that's the only thing I
I
can
felt
see.
that was a little outrageous. See, I'm definitely, when it comes to this, at least this July event, when it comes to the price, the games revealed, I'm not going to say I'm keeping my expectations low, but I'm also not expecting Microsoft to give me the world. So definitely, that seems like a really tall order. Microsoft is definitely known for preaching that they don't do the crunch culture thing too heavily over there. So definitely, I feel like that would be a very massive tall order to put out a AAA title every month. That's I really see maybe not them all being AAA. I just see them putting out content every month.
Well, it depends on your definition of AAA, right? So
See, that's what I mean. That's where and I really hate the AAA, AA thing. I just say I see them putting out content every month. Just like every streaming entertainment service out there, they put out content every month. Some of it's for you, some of it's for other people, and you kind of just pick and choose what you like.
Yeah, it's hard. Like I still don't see them. Yeah, especially with the budgets of how AAA games, like how much they can cost. Yeah, I don't see them pumping out like a Halo type of game each month, but maybe every
the
3
mic
months.
drop part, because I think you're definitely going to see Halo gameplay for the first time for Halo Infinite. I'm sure we're going to see whatever that open world rumor being Fable that Playground's been working on that he hinted at before and they never showed. I'm sure that you're going to see something from the initiative, like at least maybe a small tidbit, whether it's more of a trailer, maybe not so much gameplay, kind of like Horizon Zero Dawn did. And then, I think Obsidian, maybe Project Mara, or a little bit of the Hellblade actual gameplay, maybe just a small. So I think you're going to have with so many studios they have now, I think they have plenty to show, whether it's small or not. But
why do you think PlayStation came out and had Epic reveal an engine pretty much for something that was pretty much revolved around PlayStation? We'll just say that. At this event, we're actually going to see this new game engine that was developed specifically for Halo Infinite. And, this is going to be a game engine that's going to probably pop up a lot in the future. And
I don't
we're
think
going
Halo
to
uses it, though.
Huh?
They use their own slips.
Yes,
that's the engine I'm talking about. They're creating this. They created this engine for Halo Infinite, but I am not one of these people that's going to believe that this game is going to stay exclusively for Halo. You don't spend $500 million just to keep an engine exclusive to one game franchise, at least if you're Microsoft.
Oh, I got you. They might keep it more closer to their chest, kind of like how the Ultimate engine is for.
Well, if we notice that every publisher now has their in-house engine, EA with Frostbite, Epic. Does Epic own Unreal, or is their own standalone?
Yes, Epic owns Unreal.
You see, that's what I'm saying. Every publisher has their real in-house engine that they try to push, and Microsoft is just getting with the times. And I'm looking forward to the new tech that Microsoft is going to show with this new engine. Because Phil Spencer always talks about how they have in-house techniques. In other words, this is stuff that is exclusive to Microsoft because it's kept in-house with variable rate shading and other stuff like that. And it's going to be really interesting to see what this new engine is capable of.
And Xbox... yeah, they need to show off the games for sure. At the same, as much as I am excited about, talking about rumors and stuff, they're always fun to talk about. At the same time, I want to be grounded in reality, right? Because I mean, I think they'll drop a lot of bombs personally. A new Fable, possibly a complete reboot of it. Obviously, Halo Infinite gameplay. They want to, it's been quiet for a reason, right, on the Halo front. So they want to blow our socks off with whatever they have in store for that. And there's going to be some new games showing off. I have a feeling the initiative is going to show off some type of game, whether it's a new Perfect Dark or something else. Who knows? And I think you're going to see some surprises. I have a feeling we'll see something announced from Compulsion. They've been pretty quiet as well. And
just give us a new BioShock that's not coming out from Take-Two.
Yeah.
That itself, that's what I thought We Happy Few, although I never got to play when they finally finished it.
That was
when I
the
first
thing.
saw that trailer, I was like, "Oh my god, this is like BioShock." It just gave us all that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope they can just really with the new studio.
A game I would like to resurface and get a date. Now that you said BioShock, you just totally reminded me. Does anybody remember Biomutant?
Yes.
Yes.
I would love to finally get that game to finally have an actual official release date.
Yeah, that was an interesting title. Yeah, because wasn't it THQ who ended up buying that studio too? The Biomutant studio.
I don't really know, but I know from talking with Stagger, I guess at E3 they actually had a working playable demo of a Biomutant for E3. 2019. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I got kicked back a little bit. Actually, even the special edition for the game looked kind of cool as well. And I was kind of interested in the game. It looked very unique. You got like these animals doing like different kung fu moves, and then there was like giant mechs mixed in as well. Like I just always thought it was pretty neat.
Well, the idea behind it was the animals that you encountered had their own abilities or whatever, and you could somehow, as you could take their DNA or whatever and integrate it into yourself. And I guess just because the random that you could put these characters together, because it's the way they did it with like the DNA thing of the game, I guess you could create some pretty custom characters that are pretty, I guess, specific to the person playing.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. You're spot on with that, Centurion, and like if the name itself, right? There's like mutations I think that can happen, and so that's either way. No, it looked like a pretty cool title. Now to piggyback off of what we've been talking about here, there is also another rumor kind of making the rounds of Xbox looking in Poland for developers, and we've talked about this on the show before. Like a couple of months ago, there was rumors about Xbox looking for devs in Poland. And it's been kind of hot and cold with the rumors ever since. But according to a poster on Reset Era, again, guys, take this with a massive, massive grain of salt. But it is interesting to talk about because these have popped up before. Microsoft was trying to acquire a couple of different Polish developers, and supposedly they successfully acquired one of the biggest Polish game devs and will be announced at the July event. Now, again, we've been hearing it'll be a night of mic drops, so hey, who knows, right? But assuming this rumor is true, which Polish developer could it possibly be? And again, I'll put this out to anybody on the panel, whoever wants to pick it up first. Go right ahead.
Okay. Let's say Techland.
That would be very curious, right? Because Techland, I mean, it is pretty big. They've been... Well, things have been pretty rocky with them for like the past year, I would say, if not longer. I think they lost their publishing arm, if I'm not mistaken, and their social media had actually came out and came out and said no, that they weren't purchased by Microsoft, like back when these rumors had first started a couple of months ago. But at the same time, we've seen devs deny it at first, like Obsidian was denying that they had gotten bought off by Microsoft when rumors first started circling about them, and then lo and behold, it did get announced that they got bought. So it's one of those things where maybe it's possible. Techland, it is a pretty big studio. They moved into actually a new studio as well, a big fancy one. And Dying Light 2, I mean, it's just keeps getting delayed, and delayed. And a lot of people are looking forward to that. I mean, it is possible that Microsoft possibly stepped in there. I'll put another studio out there that Microsoft has been very friendly with over the past couple of years now. Bloober Team. Bloober is based in Poland, and they had a little deal in place for Blair Witch, and now of course with The Medium. Now they would be, in my opinion, pretty ideal because of how close they are. And I don't even think they're that many. I don't even think it's a really big studio either. Isn't it like only 30, 40 people, if I'm not mistaken? Well, either way, I mean, I would like to see that. And also, Bloober Team, they specialize, I would say, in like horror, thriller kind of games. And that would address like Microsoft's kind of genre lineup as well. Like they kind of specialize in that. I would like to see that personally. What about, guys, I'll put another one out there. What about People Can Fly? Do you think that would be a studio that they would be interested in?
Definitely. That would definitely be one. It's one of those.
Have they done anything recently other than Judgment that everyone hated?
That's a good actually, didn't they just what's that game?
I know they did something recently, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. What's the game? People in the chat would probably know. Oh, Outriders, I think it's called. Yeah, I think that's the game. Outriders. Yeah, Outriders. Yeah, it's a it's a role-playing cover-based shooter. So yeah, it makes sense that they would do that. But yeah, actually, Poland has quite a few developers. The Astronauts, they did The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, and currently they're doing the game Witchfire. It's kind of like a first-person hack and slash game. There's also 11-Bit Studios. They are the developers of Frostpunk, which is more of like a strategy game. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the big takeaways for me personally would be either Bloober Team or Techland. Like those would be some very big catches right there. I don't think CD Projekt Red is being bought anytime soon. Personally, that's the biggest studio in Poland, but I can't see it happening. They do not want to get bought.
Only way it happens is if they treat him like kind of how like Minecraft's treated, where it's just like, hey, you're gonna make this game, and that's gonna help fund our whole gaming division. Because we're still gonna keep it multi-platform. I think that's the only way you make a big, because I don't know if you know off the top of your head. I don't know what it would cost to. Probably more than the 4 billion.
Well, let's see. Minecraft was what, 1.2 billion. So, and that was just for, well, technically just one IP. But they made that back pretty quickly.
I mean, they would make it. They would make it back with, I think, CD Projekt Red. Like, just you see The Witcher and how many it's like sold. I'm pretty sure it's ridiculous now. So if you bought them right now, you probably make the money back with the Cyberpunk. So
wow. I guess the question would be how much, and maybe they would have to flop to be able to be in an actual price range.
Yeah, that's where it just wouldn't be worth it. I think you'd be smarter to go with like Bloober Team, like the ones that you work. That would make sense, and I could probably see that happening now that they're saying they're asking to be bought. So as Microsoft's working close with them now, it would only make sense.
Possibly. I'm not like 100% sure of like the technicalities with the Bloober Team, but yeah, they do seem to be pretty friendly these days. Obviously, they have an exclusive game coming, launching on the Series X, and they do kind of address something missing from Microsoft's like studio lineup, like a horror thriller studio, and I think they would be a good buy personally, especially if they don't have that many people at the studio already. They might actually be a good catch for them. So it's just interesting, all these rumors coming out of Poland, like with regards to studios. I could see them nabbing a studio there, but I would also like to see them grab like a Japanese studio, right? Because even Phil's talked about for the past couple of years of wanting to get a Japanese studio, an Asian studio, which I think would be very, very smart. We've talked a lot about this on the show. It's just a matter of which one, right? I know Jeremy would love to see Sega or From Software, but I don't know. I still, yeah, exactly. I still see them just buying small personally.
Make another studio, get Itagaki in there, base it in Japan so he can poach talent from, Team Ninja, who he had his,
Well,
relationship
Itagaki, he has, I believe, a studio in Rome, Italy, if I'm not mistaken. And
Or,
I've always
do that.
And I've always theorized that you could buy that studio in Rome, but yeah, have them making like, well, again, nobody knows what Itagaki's making. He's been he's been popping in and out of social media.
Yeah, but he's probably doesn't have as like the resources like he had when he was with Team Ninja or with Namco. So I think if you gave him like, hey, make the crazy, style game that you like to make, you have the resources, you're all at your disposal. And that would if you just announced that like this next event, it would be like almost not on the same level as like the Death Stranding reveal with when they had Kojima walk out.
Oh yeah.
But that itself was just like, you won E3 because you've announced a new game that we have no idea what it's supposed to be. So I think that would be the same way, but not to the same level, but that would be a huge win. Like, oh crap, they gave him a new studio. He made some of the best, like Ninja Gaiden Black, when he had full resources. Some of his recent games that
Devil's
smaller
Third
haven't done so hot.
Yeah, when he was at Valhalla Studios and they made Devil's Third, it wasn't exactly the most well-received game.
Who knows what the restrictions on like what he had and when say Microsoft comes in, gives you a lot more structure and stability. I think things can flourish a lot better. But.
Yeah, well, he's been teasing announcing a game for later this year. So again, the timing, he hasn't done it yet. I'd be curious to see if he would show up at Microsoft's event. That would be, the timing's kind of lining up. I'm not saying it'll happen, but
yeah, at least in the future, I think that's definitely a studio of the same. That's where CD Projekt Red and some of those just don't make sense because it's just like so much money and it's just you're not getting the value out of it. Whereas that's a low risk, I would think, but
agreed. And I think for the most part, Microsoft is betting on low risk kind of studios.
Yeah.
So, or ones that they have favorable relationships with. All right, guys. Tonight's episode of TXR is going to come to a close now. And, I got to say, it was another excellent show this time, discussing Cyberpunk 2077's delay, EA Play Live, Project XCloud upgrades, and so much more. It was a great chat. And as per usual, we had an awesome, lively chat going on. Logic wins. Thank you very much for joining us. P. Alvis, Fastback joined us. Who else do we have? UK Daz stayed around. Damn, man, you never sleep. What else? P. Alvis, Infinite, thank you for joining us, buddy. And Born Distracted, and so many others earlier on. Mike from NLG. Great show, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for turning out tonight. Remember, folks, if you happen to enjoy tonight's show, then consider leaving a like, a comment, and subscribe to keep up to date on further TXR live shows. I'm going to move on to the outros now, and we'll start off with our guest, Dreadpool. Honestly, dude, great commentary tonight, bud. It's been a pleasure having you on. Where can everybody follow you at?
Oh, it's been my honor to be invited here. It's great to see everybody in the chat, especially Daz. I'm surprised his hand isn't just going off by itself while he's sleeping. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't realize he's exercising that hand on his own while he's sleeping. So anyway,
he knows.
Yeah. What? So you can find me on Twitter at Dreadpool, and the O's are actually zeros. YouTube, Mixer, Gamertag, and Stadia. Dreadpool, all caps, all letters. And like I said, always my DMs are open. We can always chat. Anybody has a question about anything, I'm free to talk. Even if it's during the holidays and you're down, You know, I'm always open to talk. I might not have the right answers, but at least I'll listen. So, but again, thank you for having me on, and have a great night. Oh, happy Father's Day. Can't forget that one.
Of course, yes. Happy Father's Day to all the wonderful dads out there again. And yeah, again, thanks, Red Bull, for coming on. We'll definitely have you back sometime soon. Centurion Buddy, awesome show as per usual. Where can everybody follow you at?
Well, outside of hanging out with you guys every Sunday night, I also do the Shop Podcast Saturday nights. I can also be found on Xbox Live, Twitter, and YouTube at Centurion1307.
All right. Shock Buddy, excellent show. Where can everybody follow you at?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Shock Nero, Xbox Live Easy Shock. And thanks for stopping by. Did want to mention, I think I just put it in the chat. It is kind of weird that Yakuza Like a Dragon game has a Xbox Series X release, but still there's no word on a PS5 release on that game. So I wonder if they got a maybe a timed exclusive. I don't really like those, but because it doesn't do anything for me, it just takes away from somebody else. But that is kind of weird.
No, that's true. I mean, I have noticed that there's been no mention of that. There's been a couple of games actually like that too. But yeah, the Yakuza Like a Dragon, that's a very interesting.
Go on the website, no PS5 after the PS5's been revealed and everything. Still nothing. But
yeah, and like Logic Win says, like Phil was pretty proud of getting just Yakuza on Xbox alone. So, you know, kind of makes you wonder what, if they've been in talks with Sega about, something a little more. But
next step, get Team Ninja back on Xbox.
Yes, well, that would be a wonderful thing to say the least. But yeah.
Later.
All right. And of course, guys, I'm Invader Gaming. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, Invader Gaming, of the same name. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Invader_1986. As always, it's been a blast, and we look forward to our chat with you guys next Sunday. Take it easy, fellas.